So again, it's my privilege to introduce some of the most influential people, especially on social media in Indian country, as it relates to health and wellness. And it's a little scary, or maybe I feel like I'm a little bit of a fangirl because I've only seen these people, on my phone, and I can see them anytime I want. So it's kind of weird too. But I feel like I'm an auntie to their baby, even though I've never met their baby. Um, and so I am really grateful that they are able to be here with us today. And, regardless of them having this awesome platform and having that skill set to be able to do that so well, we're all here for the same reason. We're all here to help our people and to use the skill sets that we all have in our unique ways. And so I just want to, make sure we have that connection and really just welcome Thosh and Chelsey and Aloe to the stage.
All right, Mado, Kelly, for that nice introduction. I'd like also say Skukdosh to everybody. Yate. All right. Honey Wash Day. Anin, Oki. Also Mado for being here. Yahweh Scano for being here. So all of you from different parts of Native country, very happy for that. Anyap Chugik, Dosh Collins. Anakamir Autumn Java Damja, Arjun, Arizona. Um, Sapuntaha da Taiwania. Sapuntat kamnyoy. Ida od nya vumki kam nya maispa. Aus Chelsey Luger up chugik. Cha nya chuhia. Alo up chugik. Anyam Chipkan, I'm Well for Culture co-founder, Native Wellness Institute board member, and I just want to say, greeting to all of you. I'm Thosh. I'm from the Salt River people in Arizona. You may have heard of us as the Pima, but we are the Onakamidalt and the Salt River people. On my mother's side, she's actually from right here in this great state of Oklahoma, and she's from Pahaska. Her dad was Jaji over there in Pahaska, and her mom was Sinica Cayuga from the agency over in Miami, Oklahoma. That's where I come from here. I work as a co-founder with this initiative that we call Well for Culture, and I also work as a board member for the Native Wellness Institute. And I just wanted to express that I'm very happy to be standing up here. I'm very happy to see all of you, and I really am happy to hear the comments that were said up here by the pianists and the panelists, not pianists. I love the comments that were being said because this speaks to a lot of the things that we are going to be sharing in this next hour for all of you. So we really hope that you enjoy. And before my partner comes up here, we're going to do an activity.
I'm wearing the wrong shoes to be carrying my 45-pound baby. Anyways, good morning. My name is Chelsey Luger. Wakia tokahi wiamachiapi, chante washte chilake, hamadaki Hello, relatives. It's so good to see all of you here today. I'll tell you a little bit more about where I come from in a little bit, but for now, we want to start with an exercise. It's called 100 push-ups. Just kidding. It's called the 7 Sacred Breaths. And this is a teaching I learned from some elders in my community. It's a teaching that's been passed down, and it's a way to center ourselves. And so if you're able, and if you feel like it, please go ahead and stand up. And if you're not able, or if you don't feel like it, that's okay. You may stay seated. You can do this from standing or from seating. And so what we're going to do is just come into a nice strong posture. Come into a nice strong posture, and what we're going to do is breathe together, because when we breathe together and we synchronize our breath, we are able to further place our hearts and our minds in the same context and put our energy together in the same place. And I know that all of us are here with wonderful intentions for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. And so sometimes we forget to take a moment to really think about that or to center our mind on that. And so I want everybody to go ahead and just take 30 seconds and we'll think about our intention for being here today. And now that we have our intentions set, if your hands are crossed or if they're closed in any way, please open your hands a bit like this. Hands, that's an energy receiving posture. You're willing to give and receive energy when your hands are open. Body language is a strong form of communication. So open your hands. And then we're going to breathe together. So I'll just demonstrate before we begin, but it's just going to be a deep breath in the nose and out the mouth. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And so when I count to three, Waji Numpa Yamini, that's how I count to three in Lakoti Api. So I'm going to count to three, and then we'll all start to breathe together. Waji Numpa Yamini. Deep breath in. 7 breaths. 2. And exhale. And 3. 4. And 5. And 6. And 7. Okay. So go ahead and if your eyes were closed, open your eyes and feel free to shake it out a little bit and look around the room and go ahead and be seated again if you'd like. And so I love doing that exercise because no matter how big or small the room, the energy shifts. And we have the power to do that with our breath, whether we're on our own or whether we're with a group of people. So feel free to utilize that exercise, whether you're in a meeting or whether you're about to eat dinner with your family or whatever it may be. We can do these small acts of mindfulness together as a community or as a family. So feel free to utilize that.
This works.
Got it.
Yeah, and as Chelsey said, we love the 7 sacred breaths. It's a good one that really helps ground us, and it really helps to relax us. And those of you that understand too how our physiology works, you know that when we exhale slowly, we're exercising our parasympathetic nervous system. That really helps us to relax and calm. And we heard already up here before, someone was talking about mindfulness, mindful mindful breathing, things like that. Our ancestors have been doing for a long time. Feel free to use that and different versions of it. That's maybe later on as we go, we'll probably have a quick little fun wellness movement session as well. Some of you are already considering. So just a little bit about us as a little family, and you see us up here. Aside from creating our initiative about health and wellness, really what we are first and foremost is just a young family. Just a young family based in the Phoenix area. We are taking the teachings that we learned from our families, our previous generations, and we're adding more into that, and we're bringing it into the generation of our daughter and breaking the unhealthy cycle, making healthy and wellness the norm once again. So that's something that's really just all we are, is we're just this little family here doing that when we're just here to share this little initiative. This is a little bit of some members from my family. This is back in Salt River, and we were just had some seeds out, and we're just giving thanks to these seeds. We put them in, and autumn, we were corns, bean, and squash people too. And so were some of the people in pre-colonial time that had the most advanced irrigation system. They used to be able to make water run uphill to be able to reach their fields and Moedoc. So that's why we are river people. The river is a lifeline. As we know, the river was taken away, and as a result of that, many of our people have been impacted. The loss of our food systems, and diabetes is one of those symptoms of that loss of food systems. So this is some of the things that we're trying to do in our family. Just give thanks to our seeds that we put into the ground and provide nourishment for our family. And this land right here, my great grandfather was the last to plant on it. So our generation is bringing it back. So it's just some things that we're doing in our little family.
So this is a picture of my mom and I in Aloe about a year ago. And so originally I come from North Dakota. I'm from the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa on my mom's side of the family. And I'm from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe on my dad's side of the family. And my dad and his whole side of the family are cattle ranchers and own the grocery store business on the Standing Rock Reservation. And then my mom works in higher education. And this is a picture that I really cherish. It's the baby in the picture is my mom. And then it's my grandma, Dorothy, on the left, and then her mom and her mom and her mom. And so 5 generations of women from the same side of the family. And this was a pretty big deal when this picture came out. And it was published in our tribal newspaper back in, I guess, 1970, I think was the year. And so I just like to acknowledge that lineage of strong women that I come from. Before we get into our presentation, we'd like to say that the tradition of health in our communities, of good health, is much longer and stronger than our tradition of health disparities. And so we say that to remind everyone to not feel hopeless and to not feel like there is no bright future for us, because there really is. If you look in the grand scheme of things, our people have been healthy and active and fit and happy for many, many, many generations. And it's relatively recent that we've been suffering and struggling with all of the health implications that we have. And so I say that in a positive way, to know that we can move forward into a healthier future because we've been there before and we can get back to that. And we don't have to return to 100% the way our ancestors lived, of course, right? We can utilize some of the methodologies and the ideas about health and wellness and community that our ancestors established, because they do remain relevant in today's world. And we can cater those modalities to this world that we live in today.
So we know that our ancestors, like she said, lived this good way of life. And so that's why we believe that it is within our indigenous cultural practices, our worldviews, our food systems, our societal structures, our unique connection to Mother Earth, that the solutions to a lot of our issues are within that. So these are some of the things that our initiative is based upon right here. So again, it's really to acknowledge that diabetes is one of those symptoms of that greater issue, which is the loss of our connection, the loss of really a disruption of our way of life as a result of colonialism, which caused the disconnection from the land. So we believe that the healing phase that we are currently in, means for us to go utilizing those practices and we update our protocols, we make these practices applicable. We use the mindset of our ancestors and putting it into evolved practices. So again, we're in that healing phase as Native people, and I think that's important for us to always keep that in mind. And oftentimes we do get bogged down when we see the data in our communities, how health is continuing to degrade. But we also have to remember, too, we're in that healing phase, and we have made progress. Talking to some of the mentors in the Native wellness movement, they say even 10, 15 years ago, none of this stuff was happening. Now things are happening. Young people are growing up with the language. Young people are growing up with access to their food and knowing their foods, even though we still have challenges out there. So it's always important that we collectively as Indigenous people recognize we're in this healing phase and we're doing good because of historical wisdom. because of the historical wisdom that our ancestors had passed down that many of us are still thriving and surviving today, I believe. Because our ancestors were so, they were so durable, so intelligent. They had this unique connection to our Mother Earth. So our initiative, Chelsey and I started, we feel that it was really important to help spread awareness, use social media, even work grassroots in our community and other communities, or do consulting with communities to share about how important it is for our entire holistic health, for the preservation of our culture, of our way of life, of our family and our friends, and to show that within that, our cultural practices, those solutions that are in there. And so one of the main teachings with our initiative is that wellness is our culture, is our way of life, and that's kind of what we've been talking about. We look in there, we really zoom in, and we look at our foods. We see all the foods that are low glycemic. We see the foods that are complex carbohydrates, dense sources of protein, great sources of healthy fats. Those are the original healthy and wellness foods, right? Hers is still eating from her mama. The first food. And so again, wellness is our culture. It is our way of life, and we share this especially with other communities so they can even change their policy structure. How do we implement indigenous foods, indigenous thought processes, indigenous worldview within our policy? So that way we don't have a confliction between policy and the health facility and our cultural practices. They should complement one another, right? Our foods and our ways of life should be implemented within those practices, and all physicians that work for tribal communities should learn about what are the foods, learn about the societal structures that are involved with preparing those foods, bring in the language, and all that. So again, our way of life is wellness-based.
And the next that we already heard being discussed here as well too is that healthy people make healthy families, and healthy families make healthy nations. And so the closing remarks from the panel also are really applicable to this. We have to start with ourselves. We have to be healthy for ourselves so that we can be well for our families and for our communities. And that was really beautifully phrased by the panelists that were up here. And so remember, of course, personal care, personal wellness is not selfish. The better you take care of yourself, the better you can take care of those around us. And there's nothing more indigenous than that value.
And again, in order for our cultural practices to evolve, we have to be in great spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional health. And we talk a lot about, in our communities, language preservation, right? Cultural preservation, preserving our ceremonies and all that. We also have to have the discussion of evolving those fit the needs of us here and now today, because at some point in our history, our ancestors created a practice. They created a meaning for a word because it served their need at that point in time. And as we evolved, know that our world has changed and we have to evolve with it. We need to come up with new words to be able to describe the world around us, talk about fitness in our languages. Otherwise, the language becomes dated and people won't use it. We have to evolve, but in order to evolve, we have to be in good health. Good spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional health. This is important for the collective longevity of our people.
Developed this model called the 7 Circles of Wellness, and this is how we describe holistic health and wellness. We notice that a lot of mainstream American wellness advocates often use something that they would call like pillars or a list of different core tenets of wellness, but we understand that Indigenous people think in terms of interconnectedness and circular thinking. This is how our ancestors have always understood things, and this is the absolute reality of how health and wellness works. All of these components are interconnected. All of these components impact one another. And in order to achieve balance, we need
they're advocating, that I was raised with, or that our families would visit to receive healing, we think of all these things. So this is amalgamation of various teachings and ideas that we also learned by traveling around Native country, talking to different wellness practitioners, and there's these 7 areas, it looks like, that really play a vital role in our total health and wellness. And it's our relationship to food, how much sleep we're getting, how well of sleep we're getting, how adequate is it, how much movement are we doing in our life, and how much peacefulness are we having within our life as well. And is our home sacred space? How clean is it? Also, our connection, maintaining our connection to our Mother Earth, the life giver, and also maintaining our connections to our kinship, our families, our clanship, and all of that. So these are just very, very important things that we feel that are really good for us to be able to focus on it as individuals, as families, and as communities. So we have been fortunate enough to share this and work with different communities and have them implement it. But it always starts with the self. And just like the gentleman had said up here, the pianist, the panelist, he said that we have to take care of ourselves. You know, when they say the oxygen mask drops down, you take care of ourselves first. And, you know, a lot of times in my community, I heard people growing up saying, need to take care of the people first, then you take care of yourself. You know, I heard that. But I started thinking about that over time, and I heard an elder, she did say that. She said, well, what about us? She said, why not take care of ourselves first? Then we take care of people. If that way we have something to give. And so it's really important that we feel that healing and wellness starts within our own hearts and our own spirit here and branches out to the family and to the community. So something like this is something that we can follow just in our personal life and then implement on a family, in the workspace, even reflect travel policy.
So we wanted to think of a creative way to disseminate this information, and what we thought is we would like everybody here to be able to visualize an ideal day of wellness. Now, keep in mind that this is ideal for Thosh and I as well. We don't always live this way in the most perfect way, but pretty often we get pretty dang close, and we try to practice wellness in everything that we do. We view life as a ceremony. We view our wellness as something that comes first. For our family, for our community, and for ourselves. And so we'd like everybody to visualize this for yourself as we go through these. Because as we know, until we can really see something, until we can really visualize something, we can't make it happen. And so what does an ideal day of living a well lifestyle look like? And we're going to take you through that as we go through each of the 7 circles of wellness.
There's a concept or a teaching that I really like, and it says that healers have to be healed. Healers have to be healed. So I think that's really important too when we're thinking about the work that we're doing with our communities. We heard the comments that were said previously up here about even some of our physicians become so bogged down with the work and that they sometimes start to feel that impact themselves. So as you go through this, as you imagine yourself going through your day, maybe it's your day off or something like that, just think about that too. This is for my personal healing and wellness.
So our day starts with the sunrise, of course. And as we model our day, we think less about the times and more about the circadian rhythm, the natural circadian rhythm of the earth. And the more that we can be in line with that once again, of course, our total wellness will be impacted. So we start off with the sunrise.
We know that our ancestors woke with the sunrise all the time, right? Many of you still live like that. Many of you still wake up and you've been living like that since you were children. And this is something we should continue to do, to wake with the sun and to sleep with the sun. This is something that we know that our ancestors did every morning, get up, give thanks, and they had to get to work, right? If they did not work, the work would not get done for them. And in those days, right, the work was really about their survival. So it starts with our day, our sunrise.
And then the first thing that we do is enter into some kind of a peacefulness practice. And there are many different modalities of peacefulness, and you might choose an option that feels right for you, or that feels like you have the most closest connection with, or that you're most interested in achieving. And so that might be mindfulness, That might be if you have a gratitude practice where you smudge and you give thanks and you offer gratitude for your day. That might be a mindful breathing technique that you've learned, something like the seven circles, the seven sacred breaths that we just did. It might be planning your day mindfully and looking at what you have to do today. And rather than going to social media, going to Facebook, going to Instagram, looking at what everybody else is doing before you start your own, maybe you want to focus inward and be present and think about, okay, what do I have to do today? And get rid of some of that anxiety that sometimes we wake up with and really just mindfully.
And then maybe it's time to move a little bit. And when we talk about movement, we're not talking about just exercise and fitness. That's why we love this word movement, because it entails all of that. There's many different modalities of movement. How many of you just get up in the morning and you always go for your walk? You take a swift walk outside. Only one person? Wow. How many of you get up and, do some, how many do yoga or anything like that? A couple more right there. All right, good. How many of you exercise this, your coffee drinking arm right there? All right, there we go. All right, good, good. So movement is anything that really just slightly gets our heart rate up a little bit, that causes the different things to release, chemicals, biochemicals, neurotransmitters, and things to release in our body to give us that good feeling. And it's also a way we can think about it as giving thanks for our body, and moving and exercising our body. We know that we as human beings evolved to where we are today because we were active, we were moving. Our ancestors were moving and they were working. And they were taking several thousands and thousands of steps per day, and they were always doing something, and we were so active. So movement is really important. So this is stuff that even we do in our own home after we get up, do some mindfulness, plan the day, may have a black coffee, and then it's time to move around. And so maybe you might do some sort of easy movements, and we'll help demonstrate some a little bit later on as we go in and take a break. Easy movements that you can even do from sitting. So we encourage you to find some kind of modality of movement that fits your preference. The best exercise, they say, is the one you're going to do, right? And so exercise does not have to be intense. It does not have to be intense. And exercise is great for moving into older age as well, because some things happen right here. It improves brain cognition. We know that, and that's what the science is coming out over and over, that it's connecting neural networks, and it's helping to preserve our mental faculties, which is really important, especially for our elders who are moving up there in age, and we need your memory. Without memory, we don't have much. So movement is important for that. So the more you move, the more your brain is growing at no matter what age you are, and that's what neuroplasticity tells us, right? So it improves brain cognition. Also, we know that it helps to regulate blood sugar. If our blood sugar is a little too high, we go and take a walk. And that's some things that we do too. If we eat maybe a high carbohydrate meal, and I check my blood sugar, even though I'm not a type 2 or type 1 diabetic, I like to check my blood sugar to see how foods are impacting it. And then I think, well, my blood sugar is, 118 is high for me. And so I get at 118, that's high, let me go take a walk. Let me get back down to 85, 90 where I like to be or something like that. And so movement helps with that as well. We know that. We also know that it strengthens our movement patterns like walking, lunging, twisting, squatting, hip hinging, all these kinds of things. That's important, especially for elders too, so this will also prevent them from falling and hurting themselves. Also, moving our body gives us a sense of empowerment, and everyone who does that here knows that. When you get done moving, you sweat a little bit, you feel good, you feel accomplished, you feel empowered, and we're really ready to go and get after the day.
Absolutely. And then so we've had that time for our peacefulness practice where we've really cleared our mind and set the stage for our day and started to feel good emotionally. Then we have that movement practice that really gets our blood flowing and gets our mind working. And so as we know, movement is just as much mental and emotional as it is physical. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And so that's the other important thing about doing a light movement practice early on in the day is that it'll get your mind prepared to work. It'll get your mind prepared to take care of the tasks that you have in front of you.
A little bit more about food. We think of food as something that's spiritual, right? And we know that our ancestors had that spiritual connection to food. That's why we have giving of thanks ceremonies anytime the strawberries come out in one region, or blueberries in one region, or the first time to be able to go out and hunt, that we had those harvest ceremonies. We even gave thanks to those seeds. So our ancestors had this spiritual relationship to food. And there's also that teaching that says anything that's void of spirituality is broken from our perspective. And so we encourage everyone to think of food once again as a spiritual thing. Think of it as a spiritual thing right here. We know that it's important for that. So we always talk about, we advocate for is a healthy relationship to food. We advocate for a healthy relationship to food. And a lot of times when we work around Native country and work with people and we talk about diet scares a lot of people. And I ask people, what do you think of when you hear diet? People say miserable, starving, I'm hungry, not feeling good, all that. And we think these are things that should not be associated with food. Food should create wellness. Food should satiate. It should improve how we think and how we feel and all that. So it's important that we help people find out what are the foods that are right for them. And for us, we like to have good wild game proteins, or grass-fed, and we have some whole free-range eggs, or we maybe have a little salad right here with some autumn tepary beans in there, maybe a couple slices of avocados. We recently quit buying avocados just to try to reduce our eco-footprint because we know that they are transported from Mexico where they require a lot of water. And so we're trying to do these things here to really just reduce our eco-footprint. And so we always advocate for is that healthy relationship to food. And so, again, another spiritual component to food is that when we're eating the foods of our ancestors, we're having a direct connection to who we are. I think that is one of the most powerful ways to connect to where we come from is to eat our foods. I love in our home when we make the Iroquois corn, or we cook manumin with Ojibwe wild rice in our apartment, and we have that aroma throughout our apartment, and then we eat it, and that flavor is, for me, it's like a direct connection to experiencing what our ancestors experienced, to eat that food that nourishes us in a good way. So it really connects us to the land too. And this is some of background picture. It's some of the squash that come from our family's field. We also know that healthy, real food improves brain cognition and memory as well. So it's movement and food, sleep, all these things are really important for our brain cognition. And again, I think this is important for us communities who are talking about revitalization, talking about preserving what we have, we're talking about evolving what we have. And we need that mental clarity to be able to do that and protect our ways and to be able to pass it on to that next generation. We know that real food from Mother Earth also fuels our body in a good way. So there's the physical component to it. We know that the emotional component to that is that food impacts our mood, and that what we eat also, the gut microbiome, and in turn let off this byproduct into our system, right? It strengthens our immune system, strengthens our central nervous system, and all of that. So there's that spiritual, physical, mental component to food that I think is really important, that we have to hang on to. We have to continue to educate others that have not been given this information to share about this how diverse food is.
And we know that the first food, of course, is breast milk. And I saw recently a senator breastfeeding her baby on the Senate floor. So I thought, okay, I have permission now too. But honestly, unfortunately, as often happens, is until we are a mother ourselves, or a parent ourselves, or a grandmother, we don't understand the importance of breastfeeding. I'm sure most people in this audience know this very well, but supporting mothers who breastfeed in every way that we possibly can is the very first step in recreating this healthy relationship to food in our communities.
So there's another concept I want to quickly share right here, is thinking about having a relationship to foods. We talk about foods that we visualize. For myself, I'll use myself as an example. I like to visualize a circle that goes around me. A circle that goes around me. Within that circle, it's a sacred space. I have foods that are within that sacred space that I have a relationship with because I know that they impact my health in a good way. They also connect me to our ancestors. They connect me to the land. But outside of that circle are some foods that I don't have a relationship with, or maybe they're just not an option. And for me, it's things like fast food, pop, fry bread, alcohol. These are things that are just completely not even an option to me. Like I'll fast, I'll go somewhere and I'll fast all day if sometimes if we don't have access to real foods, or we stop at the grocery store and we travel with that because we have understood how detrimental some of these things are to our health. And I see some of you are probably getting mad. You're getting ready to walk out. Hey, put fried bread up there. I'm out. I don't like that. Getting your things, getting ready to walk out. And so when we talk about ancestral foods, though, we talk about the foods prior to colonialism as opposed to the foods that came after, the government ration foods that we know that wreak havoc in our bodies when we eat that. But we don't judge. And some people, some people will eat that and we don't judge. We're just saying for us. So this is just an example. It's like a personal circle that we all have our foods in, and think about that. Find out what foods are right for our body type. Find out what foods are right for all of our lipids, our blood sugars, and to be able to put those foods in those circles and really meditate on it and pray on that and drive that into our mind. These are the foods that have a relationship. Fast food, soda pop, it's been years, and it's not an option because we know that it's not really real food. It comes from food-like substances. So we also know that food that's grown from a Mother Earth also resonates at a higher spiritual frequency, and that also is good for us spiritually as well when we're consuming that.
So again, the utility in this is really in just being able to visualize. So I encourage everybody to create this circle, this inner circle of what is a part of my personal food culture, and then this outer circle of what's totally out of bounds for me. And sometimes we just need to be able to visualize things and set some kind of boundaries somewhere. And so again, we're not nutritionists, we're not dietitians, we're not prescribing diets or advocating for very specific things, because we understand that health is individual. And we understand that in order to do that, to create a meal plan for somebody or to recommend a very specific diet, you have to know a lot about that person. You have to know what they have access to. You have to know whether or not they have any ailments or allergies. You have to know their health history and so on and so forth. And so that's why Thosh and I don't come here and recommend very specific things that people should eat. Just generally, we show what we eat, how we try to eat a contemporary ancestral diet that's sort of hybridized with what we have access to and what's local. And so again, but just setting certain boundaries is a good place to begin. And mine is similar to Thosh's. I do not eat fast food. I do not drink alcohol. And so, I was a little bit of a hypocrite when last time I was at my grandma's house, because she was making fry bread, and oh my gosh, my grandma Dorothy makes the most beautiful fry bread. It's like fluffy and oh my, when it's like just off the pan, it looks so good. But I was like, I don't eat fry bread. I haven't eaten it in years. I can't go back to that now. Otherwise, it's going to become a habit. And so I did not have any fry bread. But meanwhile, I was eating a donut with like maple sugar frosting. I mean, it's really no better. But like I said, you just got to set your boundaries somewhere. And it really is helpful. So.
And you notice that we throw alcohol in there too with that, because we see that we know how alcohol has devastated our communities, but so has foods that are causing heart disease, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and contributing to cancer. We know what the main cause of death is in the United States and Canada. So therefore, we should be putting things that are causing that into that same circle. But that's just our perspective on that. We know that may be extreme for some people. And again, because dominant culture tends to categorize things, right? And sometimes maybe they forget how inextricably linked all these different things are. But if we're looking at it from our perspective, from our original perspective as Native people, we're seeing everything is linked. So erase the title. If it's legal or not legal, it's impacting our physiology in a negative way. It should be placed on that outer circle. And so moving on with our day there, maybe the food that the person prepares, maybe they're from the Great Lakes region and they might eat some manumin. We know that manumin is also low glycemic, and this is also one that I like to test my blood sugar with. I'll have some elk meat on the side, and I'll have just manumin, and I'll eat that, and then I'll show my blood sugar after, and it's really low. It's like 110, 112. And again, this is for someone who's a non-diabetic. But it's important for people to also to understand who are not diabetic to understand foods, how they're impacting their glucose, so that way they can prevent that. So this is one of the things that we like to do. So and again, wild rice is not a rice; it's an aquatic grass, and it's got some great vitamins and minerals in it. So those of you that might be from the Anishinaabe communities are also very familiar with this. So again, we're just trying to give examples depending on people where they're from. So we're just moving on with our day here, our food. And so we may even, maybe if you're from the coast, you might have some salmon here that's got some good source of fat, good source of protein in there as well. And we just love smoked salmon when we go to the Northwest. So if any of you are from the Northwest, you're lucky you get to have access to that all the time.
And after you're done eating your first meal of the day, you're gonna ideally in our ideal day of wellness, we're gonna feel good. We're gonna feel good at home, and our home is gonna be a sacred space for us. And what that means is it's a space that we have reverence for. It's a place that we feel safe in. It's a place that we take care of just as we take care of ourselves, because we know that the environment around us impacts our emotions and impacts how we are able to function throughout the day. And so simple things go along with keeping a sacred space. So having access to real food that comes from the earth, keeping our kitchens stocked with that as opposed to keeping our kitchens stocked with junk food. Cleanliness, of course, and decluttering to the best of our abilities, which obviously is not always easy, is not always something that we have time for, but just trying to keep that prioritized. Minimizing the amount of electronic devices that you have in the main living spaces. The culture that we live in, the American culture that we live in, often advocates for keeping the TV at the center of our households and keeping the TV on all day long. But we can live outside of that realm if we choose to. We can step outside of that box and we can say, do I want, my family life to be centered around the TV all day long? I grew up in a home where we always had the TV on, and that was always the center of attention in the house. But I've noticed a big difference the past few years with Thosh and I keeping our TV in a back room instead of in the main center of the house. It inspires family time and conversation and mindfulness and being present as opposed to being lost in TV world. And then, of course, keeping a home safe and free of substances and alcohol might be a value of yours. Having lots of natural light, if you're able to do that. Opening those curtains, opening those windows. Don't be afraid of that coming into your home. And having space to move around and to exercise. And then, of course, having our traditional medicines accessible is always good for us too. For those of us that's a practice of ours, for smudging or having sage or having sweetgrass available, keeping that present and keeping that to be a focal point in your home.
And we don't really hear too much about that we have to take care of our home, I guess, from the Western perspective. But thinking back to a lot of the healers in my community, they wouldn't just treat the person. They'll go into the home, and they'll look at things, and they'll treat the home. And I think that's the level that we need to be at as well as, okay, let's help you to clean out your cabinets. Let's help you to cook. Let's help you to get some light in here. These are going to contribute to your wellness. These are going to keep you from possibly being at a high stress to where you just want to go ahead and binge and emotional eat, right? So this is healing for us as well. So by this time, it's midday. It's midday, and you're going through your day, and you've just been done with your home. You're doing stuff around your home, keeping it a sacred space, and it's midday now. And maybe it's time to go outside. Maybe you got work to do around the house, because maybe it's your day off, and you got some work to do at the house, and you have some things to do going on. Maybe there's a little garden you're maintaining. Maybe there's yard work and all of that. But we know that keeping our connection to our Mother Earth is a really important thing. And we know that today we're sitting indoors a lot, right? We're inside a lot. And so it's important for us to really maintain that connection and getting outside again. We know that it provides a sense of well-being when we're outside. We know that it strengthens our connection to our land, which is really important. We know that it helps us to become in tune with our seasons as opposed to relying on the Gregorian calendar. Now, we have to pay attention to Mother Earth because the seasons are changing. So we have to plant seeds at different times. We have to harvest food at different times. We have to go hunt at different times. So we have to be in tune with our Mother Earth, just like our ancestors were.
So there's a study that that I read in the New York Times that shows that as little as 5 minutes outside every day measurably reduces stress levels. And so again, that's another reason why our connection to Earth is so important, is because if only 5 minutes can do that for us, then imagine what spending an hour or 2 hours or half of our day outside. So whenever we possibly can, trying to spend some time outdoors.
So maybe the next part of your day is spending time with family of some sort. Could be going outside, taking your walk outdoors with your family. Could be getting the family together to do an activity outside. We know that family and community is really important for our health and wellness. It's our support. And if it wasn't for clans and kinships and community, we would not have been evolved to where we are today. We didn't survive on their own. It wasn't survival of the fittest. We survived because we worked in bands and communities. That's how we thrived. And so many of us still practice that. And I don't think that many of our own people realize we're still practicing our way of life by being in such tight-knit family circles. Every community we go to, we love it. Everybody shows up with their families. When I'm back home in my community, whether it's a political function or a cultural function or a social, everybody shows up in families. So that's one thing that we have that we're really hanging on to, and that's strong within our people, is maintaining our families, our tie to our clans and all that. But these are important for our well-being because they give us that good sense of belonging, right? As human beings, we crave that sense of belonging. And we can also find people that help support our wellness journey, support groups, or making networks and friends, spending time with people who have similar wellness endeavors as well, endeavors. Also fosters confidence too when we are part of something, especially in children when they're growing up a part of something. This fosters that confidence. We see that a lot in communities where the children growing up and they're singing and dancing at a young age, that they just have this self-actualization about them, and we believe it's because they were part of that upbringing. So strengthens communities as well. This is an important thing for us that we should continue to promote in our communities. And maybe we get together with our family during the day. Maybe it's time to eat again. Maybe it's late afternoon and it's time to make some food again. We've offered enough fasting space between, and we cook. And cooking is a social activity, and it's also a ceremony, right? It's like a ceremony to be able to release the nutrients in that food, free up the bioavailability in the food that Mother Earth had provided for us. So this is a concept we like to encourage people to think about. Get back and cook again, because we have basically given up our power by allowing restaurants to cook for us, strangers to prepare our food, or get food already prepared in a box or a bag with chemicals that we can't even pronounce, and you basically have to be a chemist, right? We have to get back to cooking once again. That's how our ancestors did. It's a social thing. I see some of you really smiling in there because I know you like to cook. I love to cook too. So maybe when you're cooking, maybe you might try something like, if you're from the Southwest, a tepary bean salad that's low glycemic. It's got some jicama on there, some lacinato kale, and it's got a little bit of garnish on top to make it look nice, even though it's about to get messy. And so these are just some things that we're just sharing. Or maybe you're a person that has access to grass-fed bison, and you get that good protein. Bison has the most protein in it. It gets the most bang for your buck, the most food with the most dense source of protein in it. So this is something that, all the plains people right here in Oklahoma, many of the people here have relied on bison. Buffalo was the true giver, provided homes, tools, clothes, food of all sorts. So maybe you're a person that you eat bison, throw a little bit of shiitake mushrooms if you have access to those. Maybe you like goat cheese and you're throwing it on that salad there. So these are just things that we like to make at home as well. And maybe while you're sitting down to eat with your family, you might engage in some mindful eating practices or teachings. And mindful eating is about being present with our food. And it's about showing gratitude with our food as we're eating, keeping that gratitude within our minds as we're eating. It's also about acknowledging the flavors, the textures, all these kinds of things that the food provides. And it's being very present. And then maybe you discuss the food with your family. Yes. And maybe it's also putting away your electronic devices, because oftentimes, right, we see people sitting at the table and they're not paying attention. They're looking like this at each other. And when our attention is here, it's away from our food or it's away from our company. So this is something we like to practice even in our own home, even though we spend day in and day out together, we still like to show the food and each other respect by just keeping no laptops around, no computers, nothing like that. We just sit here in quiet and listen and eat the food and talk about the food. It's a really good way to heal.
The other cool thing about mindful eating teachings is that what we've seen is that it's really a challenge, and it does take some push and a lot of education and a lot of effort into changing the actual things that we're eating. I grew up not eating this way at all, trust me. And it was a years and years process to get to this place where these are the sort of foods that I'm eating on a daily basis. Now, mindful eating, however, can be done no matter with whatever food is in front of us. Even if we're eating pizza that day, which we do, or even if we're eating, a bowl of cereal or something like that, we can still show respect and gratitude to the people who are eating with us and to the food that's in front of us, because it's still something that is nourishing us and keeping us alive. And so mindful eating practices are a really good way of just starting that healthy eating journey, and cooking is another good way of doing that as well.
Maybe by this time in your day, we're moving on, and it's the evening time. It's the evening time, and maybe you might attend something like an intertribal fitness meetup. Maybe it's something that you organize and you put the word out. You get on Facebook, hey, community, let's get together. Let's do a little fitness meetup or movement meetup. Could be anything. Could be surrounding yoga. Could be around calisthenics. Could be surrounding some kind of dance or something. Something that's going to pull people together to get us moving, and that way we can make strengthen our network with like-minded people that are also going to support our wellness journey as well. So a little fitness meetup could be one that you could do or attend. This is something that we like to do from time to time in the Phoenix Valley area as well. So maybe by that time, you're spending time out there, community, family, and then it's nighttime. Maybe the night has come right here. And by this time, maybe what you're doing, you're just starting to reduce the use of electronic devices. Maybe we are starting to dim the lights, and we are starting to turn on the night tints on our cell phone, because we know that the blue light that gets emitted from the electronic devices, the eye reads that as sunlight. It's on the same spectrum, and it inhibits the secretion of melatonin, the hormone that prepares us for sleep. And we know sleep is so important for us, right? And our ancestors, and a lot of you probably that are older, remember that your grandparents or your parents went to sleep when the sun was going down. I'm not asking you to raise your hands. You probably remember a time when your parents went to sleep. They didn't stay up all night watching TV, right? They didn't have that. They had to rest because they were tired from the day. They knew that the day following would require them to be there, to be present, and to be recovered. And so, again, it brings us back to our ancestral inner clock, where our ancestors had slept when the sun was down and wakened when the sun was up. So, unfortunately, today, since the advent of technology and social media, many of our people are stuck scrolling, like you peek into a dark room, and you just see this glowing face, or you just see these little eyes blinking, and their face is all kind of blue and lit up. And so, again, it's important that maybe we're sharing this information, we're sharing people. Maybe you start dimming the lights, so that way the brain knows it's time to prepare. This is some practices that we do in the house. Maybe we don't have the TV and the laptop and the iPad and the cell phone going on. Maybe we just use one or two, and we start to minimize that. And then we're getting ready for our sleep, because we know that that's vital for our total health and wellness. It's the end of the day. You've had a beautiful day. You've ate real delicious foods. You've spent time outside. You've cleaned your home. You went to a community function. And now it's time to rest. And it's time to go into that dream world, into that dream space. How many of you are dreamers? Good. I love to dream. I dream all the time. Last night I had a dream I was changing her diaper, and poop kept coming out, and I was wiping it. I was like, it won't stop. Help me. So I love to dream as well. We know that sleep is important for your immune system too, right? We know that when we sleep, our immune system strengthens itself, and now they're finding out that immune system is much more important than what they're finding out. Our food, how we're eating, impacts our immune system. How much sleep we're getting impacts our immune system. Also, the dream state that we talked about, where you go to sleep and you have the dreams about changing diapers. And then also memory consolidation happens. So if we're learning our languages, or we're learning new information, we're learning recipes, we're learning new health and wellness information, that information matures. The brain cells mature while we sleep. And so this is really important for all of us, no matter what age that we are. Also, we know that when we sleep, that's the time when our body burns the adipose tissue and it builds muscle. So sleep, many different things happen during sleep. It's such an important thing for us.
Yeah, the sleep is one that I wish I had known when I mean, I did pretty well in college and grad school, but I was definitely one of those up all nighters to study before an exam. And you know what I didn't realize is that I'm not able to consolidate that information until I get at least a few hours of rest. And so that's a really good one to share with our community members who are students and who are getting through school and that too. And we have this again in the mainstream culture, we have this thing where we brag about, oh, I didn't sleep at all last night, and here I am, you know, and I think that that's something that we really need to get away from, and we need to actually really be proud of. You know, I gave myself some rest, and I had a really good sleep last night. So that's sleep, right, Aloe? You gotta let Mama sleep.
And so that's your day from beginning to end with the 7 circles of wellness and applying that in your life. We hopefully that there was some new information in there. Maybe you were reminded of stuff that you already know and practice, or maybe it inspired you. Maybe this inspired you to maybe share with all of your patients, people that you work with in some way. And remember that healing and wellness starts within our own hearts, and healers have to be healed as well, as I previously said. Healers have to be healed. No, my microphone doesn't need healing. She's a healer. So hopefully that something in our presentation, in our talk, had resonated with you in a good way, and that you're going to take this information and that you're going to go home to your families and communities or wherever you work, no matter where you're from, and just be in a good way with all the information that you learned from this whole past week. And remember to always acknowledge that we are in a healing phase as Native people, and we are thriving, we are doing good, and we must remember that and continue to live by that.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate our gratitude for being here today. The organizers and those that invited us out were so supportive of us bringing our daughter, and that's something that we do insist on everywhere we go. And we work in Native country, and it's beautiful that everywhere we go, everyone is welcoming and supportive of a breastfeeding mom. And so I just want to, you know, give a huge message of love to all of our community, and that's our culture. Again, you know, like somebody was saying earlier, is it just powwow? Is it just ceremony? No, it's this idea of inclusivity, of movement that impacts our elders and our children, of foods that come from the earth, and that we can take care of our land by once again reconnecting with these foods and just recognizing the interconnectedness of all of these different things and supporting one another. That's the key, is there's no judgment in wellness. There's no shaming in wellness, and we need to all remember that and continue to support one another. So thank you all for having us. We really appreciate it. We know that there's so many people here that we would have so much to learn from as well. And so we just want to thank you for the work that you do and for the leadership that you are representing in your own communities and families.
We just want to leave you with this concept, this idea. With every deliberation, we must consider the impact it will have on 7th generation. Everything we're doing is for the future generations. We, our generation now, are breaking the cycles. We're making healthy the norm again. All of us, you here now, just like it was said before us, you are the solution. So we are a part of an amazing thing this generation. We're passing down to this generation true health and wellness and making that accessible once again. So I wanted to leave you with that quote and wanted to thank each and every one of you, and that you may get home in a good way. And want to once again thank the staff, the amazing staff, and thank IHS. And thank IHS for delivering our baby. So thank you for everything. Tahugai.